Hello, it's Darren. Just a few tips for figuring out the challenge to work on in your brainstorming session, especially getting down to that level of the questions. What questions can you pose to the brainstormers to get ideas? Something that we do at the early stages of an innovation session. So there are two great resources that just exploded in the year 2021. And these are templates that are pre-built templates or canvases from whiteboard tools like Mural or Miro. Right? So what you might want to do is just take a look and see, these almost would be whole workshops or sessions you could facilitate to try to figure out the challenge to work on or zero in on defining it. So you could just scroll through. What you might want to do is look at some of these areas here. This might be the understand stage, right? You can see some different activities that you could do yourself that you could lead people through to really understand the challenge and define it and turn it into questions. So that might be something. I see the plan, I see design, I see a lot of interesting stages. One thing that might be interesting, a good way to look at this, are through a design sprint lens, where you could look at design sprints and what are some of the very first stages they're doing in a design sprint, which is generally, how do you understand the challenge? How do you define the challenge? Here's a design sprint template. You might see how they do that stage. So another tool here is Mural. Same thing, right? They have a little bit different categories here. Try to think of what people might use to describe this. Sometimes it's problem framing. But here, if I look at the design sprints area, I see a design sprint canvas. There's a lot of them. Here's probably the classic one from Jake Knapp. And some of the very first activities on these sprints might be what you might do to be able to define that challenge, turn it into questions. I know they have a lot of mapping that happens at the very beginning, as you can see here, but you could take a look at what are the more specific activities that are happening too. So that's one idea, is to think about that. What I like is to just turn it loose on the participants, right? So if I'm just trying to figure out what questions to ask the participants to get their ideas, why don't I have them do that? That's in the spirit of brainstorming and why we brainstorm as a group, to access the power of collaboration. So many times, though, you might have great technology, you might have a great, process, you might have templates, content, some great books you've been using to help you understand innovation and what you might lead people through. But really the important piece is the people piece, the relationships, giving people the activities to help them think, to help them unearth that mindset in themselves. And you could do this at the stage of trying to create questions. So how I might look at this is, if I'm on a Mural board here, let's say I want to build a brainstorming session, and I want to really turn my participants loose first on thinking about why we're there, that challenge that we're working on, and also to then be able to create their own questions that we might use. So I might just look at my cards I've got here and copy, right? There's a visualize activity. Maybe that's an activity they do first, is we give them just 5 minutes and a sheet of paper to visualize what they might, think about focusing on with this challenge, right? So maybe we play that card first, 5-minute activity. Or maybe I help them to understand this challenge more and we do a think, pair, share. So I'm just going to use my Command-C shortcut here to copy that. And I'm building a storyboard for a session here. So maybe that goes next. Think, pair, share activity where, okay, they thought about this, they visualized this challenge and what are the issues with it. So now I pair up with a partner and I discuss it. So if they're doing this session virtually, that's a Zoom breakout room or a Teams breakout room. If it's in person, they turn to the person next to them perhaps. Show them maybe what they visualized on the sheet of paper if they drew it up. Then maybe we do a brain rain style activity where usually this is to just create a large list of ideas as quickly as we can. In this case, the ideas will be questions. Okay, we've got this challenge to, serve this group of customers better, right? Or to take our product to the next level, to innovate our product. What questions would you want to get ideas on? Just turn them loose on that, maybe 5 minutes, listing as many as they can on a sheet of paper or individual Post-it notes. So now they have something, right? So we've done a sequence here where they've thought about the challenge, they've partnered up and talked about it. So now they should be able to come up with more specific questions that the group could be able to generate ideas on, right? And then maybe you go through some of your classic techniques of noting and voting after that, where you You have them add, their top 3 questions to a Post-it note and put it on the virtual wall or the real wall. And then maybe there's some clustering that happens where you see the themes of the questions. And that becomes something the group focuses in on when you see what are the questions that people think are the most important and what are the clusters of them, right? And be able to do that. And then maybe you could even do something I like to call investment bets, which is just like a dot voting, but in a more fun way where you give them poker chips, right? And which questions would you want to invest in or bet on, right? That these would be the important questions if we were to focus on generating ideas, that we could zero in on these questions, right? So that's just an example of how you take really simple tools from the world of facilitation and maybe use it for your purpose of trying to zero in on the challenge you're there to work on and create questions that are going to be good questions that your participants, your brainstormers, those that are participating in the innovation session can contribute to. So how do you learn how to apply some of these facilitation tools and techniques that I see on the board here? Well, I demonstrate a lot of those in the Train the Trainer program in these specific online workshop modules, like facilitation tools and techniques. That's essentially what I'm doing, is what tools or techniques can I facilitate with this group to help them come up with questions that we can zero in on our challenge. Other good ones, the Innovative Facilitator. Also, we're maybe going to be doing this in a virtual setting. Remote workshop facilitation training would be a good one to see this and get into this. So that's what I recommend, is zeroing in on upping the facilitation aspect, because there's a lot of great templates and tools that are already out there to help us, know the content that we can use in the session to be able to guide people through this innovation process. There's even something from TED, it looks like. I wonder what they have, right? And that's from Miro and also from Mural. These are the resources. Lightning Decision Jam. I like this one a lot. This would be one that could be a good one to get into, to be able to help people understand what the challenge is. It's almost designed for that, right? To be able to reflect and then create the ideas for, reframing problems as challenges, and then what's the question, and let's get started. So that would be one I might recommend to experiment with. I think there's probably a version on Mural and also on Miro as well. All right.